Hello, and a really warm welcome to Courageous Conversations. These conversations are a celebration of women's voices, courage, and wisdom. And today we are trying a new bit of technology called Be Live, so please bear with us if it's not working as it should. And I'm really thrilled today to be talking to Merrilee Baker, and I'm just going to read you her bio before we get stuck into the conversation. So whilst house sitting in coastal rainforest in Costa Rica, surrounded by magnificent trees, birds and monkeys, Merrilee heard the call via Clare on Facebook to join Treesisters. That was in August 2017. Soon after, Merrilee began volunteering, first as a pollinator for our Billion Trees campaign, then as a moderator or river tender, as we call them, in our inner journey of awakening. Merrilee is following her latest calling and is now hosting the Global Meditation and Intention Circle in our online community, The Nest. She says she's currently offering her gifts freely in service to Mother Earth and is open to unlimited possibilities to sustain herself by helping others. In her spare time, Merrilee cares for her 89-year-old mother and loves to stand-up paddleboard surf. So I'm really thrilled to be talking with Merrilee, and welcome, Merrilee. It is a brave thing to come on a courageous conversation.
Thank you, Pollinator, and thank you for Treesisters and everybody who's supporting me and holding me, whether physically or able to watch. And yeah, I'm hoping that the wind here isn't too much to affect the audio. So yeah, thank you.
It sounds pretty good right now. So I'd really love to begin by asking you why it is that you're a tree sister.
Yeah, there are so many reasons, but I think the overarching one is when I heard the call to give back to Mother Nature. I was donating to a few different organisations. I had been in a job that paid all right, and could afford to do that. And then I had been not working, and but even so, I felt I receive so much from this earth, and some of it is is part of the destruction. And so really that ability to be able to give back to tree sisters who then plant the trees all throughout the tropics, which is so important, was probably the fundamental thing. And then the support of going through the inner journey and all those interviews that came with the Billion Tree campaign was just awesome. Yeah. So the sisterhood that came from that. Yeah.
And what is it that being a tree sister has given you?
Oh, I think I mean, as part of being the journey, there are a lot of the process that you go through, and for me, it's another step. There's it's almost like the spirals in the fractal whole system of our universe, and that things get deeper and deeper. So the actual process that everybody can be a part of within Tree Sisters has been amazing. The talks and just widening my understanding of what's out there, and especially of trees and nature. That's just been mind-blowing. But I think the ability to be able to have volunteered and to have been part of those sort of inner support groups of when you stand up to be in the Heartwood, that has been really over the top. And then the people that I've met, that I've then formed closer relationships with, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing that for those watching who don't, we have a really amazing volunteer team called the Heartwood Volunteers, and Tree Sisters could not function without our incredible volunteers across the world. And it does really seem as though within those circles of volunteers, there's more circles that have grown of deeper intimacy. And I know that you're involved in some of those deeper circles.
Yeah, I think the friendship that I formed, and I mean, I'm here in Western Australia. It's so remote. I think there's a few Tree Sisters here, and obviously Louise is the financial mama. She's only an hour or so away from me, but I still haven't met her personally. But to be able to meet these people online, and it's just been able to, when times are tough for people, which we all have times that are really, really tough, and to be able to just reach out and say, hey, we're here, you know, I'm holding you, I love you, and to feel that love come back. I mean, I think for me, never been a really social person. I've never had a lot of friends. I've never been a person that's had big groups of girlfriends. If anything, I've tended to always just be more with you know, I've done things which are more male, you know, surfing and going off exploring through South America on my own, and, you know, and doing things like that. Yeah, so to have the experience of sisterhood has been amazing. Yeah, well, I keep saying amazing. That seems my mood. I'll try and think of a different adjective. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is that amazing to feel that support, because I think a lot of us, you know, we do live our sort of individual lives in little silos, really, and then not necessarily meeting people who are like-minded, and to feel all those like-minded women around you is very empowering, I find also.
Yeah. And I think, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it has also given me the, I suppose, the courage to actually to go to things like in Mandurah just recently. That's the city where I live. It's only a small city, a satellite city of Perth, the major city, an hour or so away. And I went to the, they've been having this sort of like a forum where you're able to give feedback, and it's for planning for the future for Mandurah for 20 years. And I was just, I felt so out of place there. There was like, in the small groups at one stage, there were people that were acknowledging climate change and what's happening. I mean, this is a low city that's, you know, it's got ocean and estuaries all around us. And no one in that planning would put up and leave up and let it carry over to the next one, that we need to be focusing everything on regenerating the city and things. And to be able to then come back to Treesisters and to write something, to share that feeling of just like, oh my God, I can't believe that these people are so not aware. And to be able to come back and then know that there are thousands of other people who are aware. Because otherwise you just feel like the despair would be too great. You just give up. And I'm and having to be in that world all the time, and I'm probably more in this world, but I am trying to sort of step out and be in that world as much as I can, and then sort of, I suppose, then draw back and think, okay, well, what can I do within my sphere? What little bit can I do that contributes, that I feel will make a difference? And I think every little bit that we do, whether it's loving children, grandchildren, I don't have any, well, for me, you know, just being able to love and be patient with my mum and her, you know, sort of her extreme moments of forgetfulness, you know, right through to writing letters or being there for somebody who sounds like they're almost suicidal or is giving up on hope on life. You know, any of those sorts of things, and those things I feel so supported in having the sisters around me that I've got to know through Treesisters. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
and then
that you talk about courage, because I think it does take courage to step out of the circle that we're in and actually go into, you know, a government space or a council space or whatever, and raise these issues around climate, and then at the same time, as women, we have so much influence in our families and in our communities in other ways, but we have, you know, and so there's this kind of dance between the courage to really step out in the world and go to things like your meeting in Mandurah, and then having the courage just to be in our own families, expressing our love for the planet and for a future for those children and grandchildren.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, sorry, I'm not sure if I overspoke there. Yeah, I mean, and the encouragement that I get. So from when you were going through all of the stuff with the trees being bulldozed in your neighbourhood, and going to council and having those meetings and snapping the pencil. I mean, you know, those sorts of things that we share. I mean, that then just, you know, at the moment, you know, you've got the compassion and keep going for it, Pollyanna. And then when it happens for yourself, you know, it's that, you know, it's all of it coming back and being sort of supportive. Yeah, which is great. And Yeah. So yeah, that's one side.
The story I was just going to share the story that Merrilee's talking about. Is I went with a lady that I'd met locally who had a whole load of trees bulldozed behind her house. We went to the offices of our local member to discuss the situation, and he was absolutely infuriated with us and ended up breaking a pen in his hand because he was so furious. And it was a very distressing meeting, but I was able to come back to the circle of women that is, you know, the network of Tree Sisters around the world, and go, oh, this thing happened, and it was, you know, it was really quite shocking. And, you know, to have, it was like having arms around me saying, it's all right, it's okay, you know, you're okay, it's all right, you can go back out and do it again. And so it's brilliant to hear that my sharing of that supports you finding your courage. And, you know, and then it comes around again. Like, I was really inspired that you went to Mandurah to that meeting and and spoke up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's the sort of the more out there in the world active part, and then there are other parts where I'm feeling really called more to now, which, I mean, maybe it's safer, but I think it is. I've been really looking into the science. I mean, because sometimes I've seen people say, oh, well, you know, just praying for this rainforest or for this area or the Great Australian Bight, wherever it might be. What good's that going to do? You know, like, that's just, it may make you feel good, but yeah, that can't really help, can it? And so I've been looking into the science, and there are just so many studies of where the prayer and intentional healing, where they're actually to link it in with the theories of quantum science. And so there is proof that all of that happens, that the energy information does actually get stored in water molecules and different, even cotton. I mean, it's incredible that this science, these experiments have been done, whether it's in petri dishes or out in the world, with the peace experiments. And so I feel really inspired now to do the focused intentions, and they come also heart math. So I mean, a lot of people are aware of the work that heart math is doing with coherence, and extending that from within our own heart brain coherence, so that all of our body is sort of like in tune, and but we're also in tune with all the electromagnetics around the earth. And so they are doing all these experiments to see how that links. So obviously we're affected by all the magnetic and electromagnetic grids around the earth and the solar. So they've done experiments to see when the...
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Just for those of us who don't know, because I'm not very familiar. So with the heart math, what is the coherence that you're talking about?
Okay, so the heart has, I mean, everyone's aware that if you've got heart problems, you go and you have an ECG, and it shows you heart sort of rhythms, Q waves, and all the different sorts of waves. So, and we tend to think of it, oh, well, this is normal, and then this is abnormal when you've had arrhythmias or something like that. But when you look at it more finely, and they've got more fine tuning, they can actually see it actually changes all of the time. So when we're a little bit stressed, the actual coherence, or the there's another word for it, it's just escaped me anyway, that is slightly different. And when we meditate, when we go into a really quiet space, and our brain rhythms, which we have the beta, which I'm probably more in beta now, and if I actually relaxed and open to spirit, I'd be more like in alpha, our dream state. And then we go deeper and deeper. Theta is where you can actually like get into a trance and walk on hot coals, because you totally imagine it as cool green moss. So when those heart rhythms and the electrical rhythms in the brain, when they become coherent, you get this incredible feeling of, and if you can raise up the energy to a feeling of compassion, love, gratitude, those sorts of emotions, you become coherent. And they've got a little app, and you can actually see when you've managed to get to that state of heart-brain coherence. And it has it has a healing effect on your body, as to to be able to all the studies that show your stress, how it affects so many different diseases, our immune system, or the immunology work that's now being done with tying in with the neurons as well. So I think this will be the next, it's going to be a huge area in medicine if the big pharma can get out of the way. So,
and are you applying this to prayers for forests? Like, is that what you're doing with that?
Yeah, so I did that sort of like 10 days leading up to Christmas, and it was just a small, and then I wanted it to be picked up by a larger, bigger than the small group of friends that I've got, and to really get out there. And Clare had a similar sort of a feeling, and so I think that as Tree Sisters something will happen, but Tree Sisters obviously got a lot of other things to focus on at the moment. But there's definitely there's a lot of people who are wanting to do heartfelt sort of and different prayers and meditations for the world in different areas. So that's why we've sort of opened up the circle in the nest to help people share their experiences and experiments and information.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it probably started more from healing. Yeah, started more from people, and like started actually with Gender Park, and then with a group of people with healing for one another, and then thinking, yeah, well, there's not as much scientific evidence for helping the Amazon, but yeah. Sorry, go, Pollinator.
I was just going to say, for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, we have Tree Sisters has its own online community called The Nest. So it's just the Tree Sisters space, and within that space we've got all our various interest groups, and one of those groups that's just opened up that Merrilee's very generously holding is a global meditation and intention circle. So part of what we're doing is gathering women who want to participate in that. And what is it? I'm really curious, because a part of me, like I've read the experiments that were done last century where they were focused on crime rates in Washington, D.C. I can't remember whose work it was, but there was a lady who had a meditation group that was praying in Washington, and the crime rates went down. So I know that there has been research into that in the past, and that there's a lot more now, but there's always a part of me that's a bit, that feels a bit kind of like, well, can that really do anything? And so I'm really curious about what we could hope for in terms of, praying for the forests, and what your aim is really when you're doing that.
I think you can have the overall. Linnea just shared a grandmother's prayer, which is based on some ancient teachings and intentions, I suppose, which is really more of a protection for areas and a larger sort of more holistic sort of approach. And I think we've actually put that, posted that in there, and I haven't sort of practiced that enough to really follow that. But from the science point of view, for the ones that Lynn has done quite a few peace intentions, and she has all before and after statistics and things like that. So they're actually able to manage to measure like what the crime rate is, and they're very specific on what they'll actually measure. And then they have thousands of people that all come together with an intention. You raise the emotion up to this emotion of love. That's a very important component, that you really have to get that emotion there. And then you attach that with the thought, and then the thought is information, and it travels on energy waves. So scientifically, from a quantum science point of view, this is actually physically happening, that these thoughts go out there infused with emotions of love and gratitude, and can actually have an effect. How? The science isn't there to be able to actually explain that, but ancient yogis and indigenous shamans have known it for thousands of years. That's how they communicate to people in dreams and traveling and getting messages to people through the dream world. So I want to really look at specific intentions. So it might be, say, for somebody who's, like at the moment, Los Cedros, which is in the headwaters, is trying to preserve their area. I think it's mainly from copper mining and from people coming in and ruining what's meant to be actually a sanctioned sanctuary type area. So it
in the
might,
Amazon.
yes, yeah, in the Ecuadorian Amazon. So it might be a specific one. The judge is going to come to their lands and have a look. So it might be a specific intention that when he is there, he is so in awe with the beauty and diversity of Los Cedros that he passes the judgment that that land will be sacred and that no one is allowed to mine it. So from the huge global right down to specifics, which are based on actual things that are happening. That's what I see that we're able to do. Yeah.
And how does it work with like group intention and meditation? Are you gathering at the same time and following the same intention? Like how does it actually happen?
I don't think we can say for sure, because again, when we start looking at quantum understandings of time and space and the different dimensions, some people prefer that we all do it at the same time, whether that's 8 a.m. for me and midnight for someone in the UK, or whether that's not quite right, but roughly, or whether we all do it at 1 p.m. our time. Or, but one of the things that one of the people I read, he feels that the more important thing is that whereas a lot of, say, LINs have been just a one-off, there's been thousands of people and they've all meditated and they've had statistical results, but the crime or the violence has come back up again afterwards. So it needs to be continual, not that we're doing the same prayer all the time, but that focus is there. So I think it can be both. It can be an intention. So say like when it's going to be the equinox or International Day of the Forest, we can have a really big focus over all of that day or even at a specific time. But then for us to constantly come in, even in our day, and just listening to the birds, coming outside, hugging a tree, listening to the birds, and just thank you, universe, for this most fantastic place that you give us. Yeah, that constant gratitude.
So it becomes almost like a mindfulness practice to give gratitude for nature.
Yeah, just whenever you come, and yeah.
And I know from my own experience that when I do that, regardless of whether anything else is happening, it actually fills me up also. So it gives me a feeling of well-being and happiness, and then I go into my family and I'm much nicer. So everything is connected. So I'm imagining that feeling of well-being that I receive from expressing my gratitude is spreading in some way.
Yeah.
So I would really love to know. I'd really love to know what your deepest hope is with these prayer and meditation experiments for yourself. Like what it is that you really deeply long for in relation to this.
Well, my deepest hope is that all extractive industry stop in sacred and areas of pristine beauty and necessity, like the topics. I mean, any more of the Amazon, the planet's stuffed, basically. You know, it's so there's that side of it. Yeah, I don't know that so it's not really personal. It's greater than me. And I suppose because I feel like the universe or the divine or whatever you might want to call it is within me. It's not like it's out there and I'm separate from it. So yeah, it's me as well. I am all of that. So yeah, for that, you know, we can't have whales and dolphins, sonar and navigating systems and being blown to smithereens so that they all come and beach themselves. This has to stop. And prayer is one way. I mean, I'm doing a lot of other things too. I'm trying to find out some legal avenues and things of how we can get NOPSEMA to look at the evidence. But I can't do it on my own. It's too much. So, but prayer I can do.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it's really beautiful that prayer can be a form of activism. That meditation is a form of activism, and it's not a form of activism that's going to burn anyone out or make people terribly depressed. Yeah, it's quite beautiful.
Yeah. So, I think it helps to support me in the when I venture out and do those others, which can often be really despairing. That by coming back and doing the meditation and doing loving kindness meditations and all of these things, that's, as you say, it gives you the energy to keep going.
Yeah, and I think that's actually incredibly important, because we are more and more bombarded by terrible news items and things that are frightening and distressing, and we're not much used to the planet and the trees when we're in that sort of state. And so it really is a beautiful reminder to hear you talk about how nourishing and sustaining and supporting it is to do these practices that you're doing. Yeah. So I'm just conscious of the time, and I would really love to finish on, do you have a message for anyone out there who's thinking about joining us that is, whatever you would like to say in terms of final words to come and join us in Treesisters, and why?
Well, first thing was just do it. But yeah, just to really to go out into nature and hug a tree. Really just touch nature, to let it into your heart, and to really, other than giving thanks, it's like really just taking in that beauty, and it's so that really sticks, that you hold that for a few moments, and then to explore, have a look around all the fantastic projects that Treesisters is partnering with around the world, with planting from mangroves to rainforests, and now doing even stuff in Brazil, looking at the map, and just joining, checking it out, and definitely find a place in your heart to give back, because giving lifts us up as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And if anyone would like to come and join us in our online community, The Nest, you can find that by Googling Treesisters Nest, and it will be right there, and you can request to join, and we'd love to have you. And thank you so much, Merrilee, for joining us. Next week, we will have another courageous conversation with Samuel hosting, and we really hope that you'll join us for that. And I really thank you, Merrilee, for coming and talking about your work and such a fascinating topic.
Thank you for asking me, and thank you to all the friends. I can see a few faces there, but I can't really see on my comments that there. I'll read later. Thank you very much, and have days around the world.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Stop camera.